speakers for the day is prepared to whistleblow. This lady's an ex-nurse. She knows about care homes, she knows about masks, and she's come from Liverpool today.
My name is Neve. I'm an ex-nurse. I was a nurse for 27 years. I started life as a theatre nurse in Modern Euro. When I did the theatre nursing course in 1994, there was a huge study down south into wearing masks. The conclusion of which was they had no benefit whatsoever. So it was agreed that the theatre staff would continue wearing them, basically to protect us from blood splatter. So when all this rubbish started this year about masks, I decided to go back and do my own research, knowing what I knew from 1994. And lo and behold, nothing has changed. The masks are no benefit whatsoever. I have read and studied many reports done by medical professionals and professors into the efficacy of masks. The cloth masks, the ones that people are buying as accessories to their fashion, are the most dangerous. They offer no protection whatsoever. All masks, apart from the N95 masks, only offer 20 minutes protection, after which they become saturated with the wearer's breath, offering two-way transmission of microbes. There was a study in America recently on a child's mask. A child had worn the mask for 8 hours. On that mask, there were 80 colonies of bacteria, 5 viral colonies. And this is what people are breathing in, their protective measure. It's this that's giving rise now to the increased pneumonias and lung infections that are now in hospital. After my theatre nursing days, I went into care of the elderly. I was a manager of care homes for 21 years. And quite a famous whistleblower, notorious case in Liverpool, on which there was a documentary about. As a consequence of that, I've become an advocate for the elderly. I have a Facebook page called Care Home Care, where I have nearly 15,000 followers. I now support fellow whistleblowers who've gone through what I was subjected to, and also people who are concerned about elderly relatives in care homes. I know exactly what's been going on in these care homes. You hear Matt Hancock talking about protecting Granny. Well, just let me tell you how he's been protecting Granny. Amnesty International published a report 4th of October called As If They Were Expendable, and there's a damning indictment into how our government have treated our elderly in care homes. In March and April this year, the hospitals were ordered by the government to discharge elderly patients back into care homes. That's 25,000 people were discharged back into care homes, some who were known to be COVID positive. Meanwhile, the care home staff were told by Matt Hancock that there was no need to wear PPE, that they just wear what they normally wear when dealing with patient care. That's the staff at risk, and that's the care home residents at risk, our most vulnerable group. As a consequence, there have been over 19,000 excessive deaths in care homes this year. That's protecting Granny. On top of that, 11,800 care home residents were denied treatment by GPs refusing to go into care homes or refused to be admitted into A&E. That's abuse. That's neglect. On top of the genocide of 19,000 residents. And then, of course, there's the protection of the staff, the dedicated staff who give up their time and are loyal to caring for our vulnerable elderly. We have the third highest death rate of healthcare workers in the world as a consequence of COVID. We have 649 healthcare worker deaths. Mexico is the highest with 1,332. USA second with 1,077, and then there is us with 649. Compare our population and demographics to the like of them, and it gives you an understanding of exactly what's been going on in our care homes. With regards to the flu vaccination, it is known that the majority of the COVID deaths all receive the flu vaccination. What people don't realise is that on average the flu vaccination is between 40 to 60% efficient. They guess the strains that are coming out each year with the first few cases. It's an educated guess as to what vaccine they're going to give that year. 2017 to 2018, the efficacy of the flu vaccination was 15%. It's all there, it's on fact, okay? With regards to the flu vaccination, it's also known to increase fivefold the risk of respiratory infections. So those who have the flu vaccination are more at risk of getting COVID. And yet the government are telling you to protect yourself and get the flu vaccination. Meanwhile, they're ignoring the science. I also want to discuss hydroxychloroquine. Anthony Fauci, the Chief Medical Officer of America, had a study published in its own journal, the Journal of Virology, on the 23rd of August 2005. This is 15 years old, and it proves that hydroxychloroquine is a known preventative as well as curative treatment for all SARS viruses, of which COVID-19 is one. Suddenly, a drug that's been safe for 70 years has now been demonised. It's manufactured in France. In March, it was taken off all of the chemists' shelves in France, where you could just walk in and buy it off the shelf. American doctors have been banned from prescribing it. Of course, we know the reason why, because if people were to know that there is a treatment and a cure, it would mean that there's no need for a vaccine. I know how to make hydroxychloroquine. We can all make it. Nature provides the cures and the preventatives. I'm going to share that knowledge with you now, okay? Hydroxychloroquine is in lemon peel, grapefruit peel, and lime peel. Grapefruit is not recommended for people on certain blood pressure medications, and this is not recommended for pregnant women or those who are breastfeeding. But you can make it yourselves. You put the peel only, no flesh, no pips, peel only in the bottom of the pan. You cover the level of peel with water. You bring it to boil. You make sure there is a lid on the pan because the quinine is lost in the steam. And you simmer it for 2 hours. That's all you do. Simmer it for 2 hours. Let the pan go cold. Once it's cold and there's no steam, you lift the lid off, remove the peel, and bottle the solution you've made. It'll look like a yellow brownie colour. It keeps for 9 months. When you don't get any symptoms, you take 20 mils 4 times a day. It's quite bitter tasting. You can take it in lemon juice, orange juice, or with a spoonful of hot honey. But there's no reason why you can't look after yourselves. There's no need for a vaccine, and you can make your own hydroxychloroquine. Okay?
Thank you for that. Now, I've just been told that Piers has actually arrived at the car park, so he's probably about 5 minutes away. So we know what to do when he arrives, don't we, people? What are we going to do? Louder than that! That's a bit better. I'm sure when he arrives there will be incredible noise, because he's very powerful, his Piers Club. And if we were able to be 6 metres apart from everyone, there will be people across the road over there, there'll be people in the everybody market kitchen. So below me. But the big reason why we do this 6 feet rule is that our heart is like a generator, and it generates energy that beyond 6 feet other people can't pick it up. So if you are within 6 feet of someone, you are getting and sharing their emotions. And this is what it's all about. We are human, aren't we? We all want to socialise, don't we? So we take you away from putting you at 6 feet, because it's not by chance, they've worked it out. They know damn well what they're doing with the 6 feet rule, the 6-month rule. But all these, when you actually work it out, it's 3 sixes, that says it all. But the main reason why we do the 6 feet is about 5G, and it's about targeting human beings. And if you are more than 6 feet away from you, they can target you individually with the 5G that they're cranking up. I don't care if people think it's a conspiracy 5G, I really don't care. I love being called a conspiracy theorist, because it's like Piers says, the conspiracies of yesterday are the truths of today. How many conspiracies have now been found out to be absolutely true? And 5G is no different. I mean, there's 5G towers around here, and I mean, it's a weaponized system. For heaven's sake, it can tomorrow we can get the smartest phone and you can link to the smart grid. No, thank you.
What to say is thanks to every single one of you for turning up today. Will you please give each of yourselves a cheer? A bit louder, please. Make as much noise as you can, please. Now. Just have to bear with me if I'm a little bit, let's say, unprofessional or unreal.
As a community member, I would like to share some concerns about what's going on in the country. We the people have a responsibility to protect the vulnerable and the elderly, and a responsibility to help control the spread of the virus. The good people of the North West have never disputed this, but as parents, employees, business owners and residents of North West, it's also our duty to scrutinise the handling of the virus and the knock-on effects that the lockdowns have been put on us. Back in March, the virus was an unknown, so it was sensible to lock down the country for the protection of everyone. 8 months later, we know so much more about the virus. We know the virus hardly affects children or healthy adults. We understand that the virus can be deadly to the elderly, to the vulnerable and to those with comorbidities, just as every virus is. 8 months with no end in sight to the restrictions. We must ask ourselves, if the lockdowns put in place to suppress the virus become more harmful than the virus itself, then why do the government insist on carrying on with it? The Coronavirus Act 2020 has given the government enormous powers which they have abused on a criminal scale. There is now an imminent second lockdown. This will result in more deaths than the virus, the loss of people's businesses and jobs, the biggest mental health crisis in modern times, irreparable damage to our children's education and the destruction of society. It will be the biggest attack on the population of this country since World War II. It's for us to stand up, speak up and end these crimes against humanity. It's no secret that the BBC and the mainstream media as a whole are biased, non-diplomatic and running unfair policies. They promote propaganda and fear with headlines like COVID-19 is as dangerous as Ebola. They completely disrespect highly regarded professors and doctors such as Professor Richard Ennis, Dr. Ron Daniels, Dr. Sunita Gupta, Dr. Martin Kuldoff and Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, branding them conspiracy theorists, all because they are raising concerns about the government policies. These people are not quacks, they are highly revered doctors and experts in their fields. These highly skilled doctors want a different approach to handling of the virus. Combined reasoning is simple. The Great Barrington Declaration, I hope you've all signed it. They quote, as infectious disease epidemiologists and public health scientists, we have great concerns about the damaging physical and mental health impacts on prevailing COVID-19 policies and recommend an approach we call focused protection. These proposals have been sneered at by mainstream media and smeared by Matt Hancock, opposed by scientists paid for by our government such as Patrick Vallance, Chris Whitty and Neil Ferguson. This should make we the people ask the question, why? I can tell you that it's no accident that all these people have vested interest in private vaccination companies and stand to make a lot of money and receive powerful promotions when the vaccine becomes available. As citizens, we should be questioning these motives. If the previous lockdowns have been so damaging to the economy, health, well-being, education and the loss of freedoms and liberties, a monumental health crisis, untreated diseases resulting in deaths, a rise in addiction, suicides and abuse, then why do these people insist on doing it again? Our government is led by paid scientists and advisors and has followed their advice when handling the virus using terms like follow the science and trusted science. But the government clearly only implements the science from its own team, which is highly unscientific. Science should be debated. Most great results from science come from an exchanging of ideas, implementing different strategies, discussion and experiment. That's how science works. It is how we get the best results. When a group is favoured over another and the free flow of information is disallowed, then how will we ever get the best results? How will we know how to move on with the best standards of practice? The government insists on using its own scientists who are advising them to lock down once again. This is madness, given that what we already know about the implication of lockdowns. It was Einstein who said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. He is credited as being one of the greatest scientists of our times, and yet the government chooses to ignore his warnings as well. At this point in time, the government has been under enormous powers under the Coronavirus Acts. If we want to retain a democracy, then it is up to us. We need to inform people of what is happening. We need to write to our MPs and ask them to speak up for us and address our concerns. We need scientists, doctors, lawyers, head teachers, and quite frankly anyone with a voice to stand with to be our voices. Our peers, we the people, need to police the power that has been handed to the government in the name of safety. Vigilance is absolutely necessary and should be coming from our peers, the mainstream media and the general public. Unfortunately, the people who have spoken out have been silent, censored. Any doctors, scientists, media outlet or a member of the general public who dares to question the narrative is demonised as an anti-vax, anti-mask, virus denier, conspiracy nut, to name some of the more pleasant insults. We all need to rise above this and stand together. We need to find a better way forward. We need to use the best model which has the least impact on education, health and employment. Does the government care about our children? The government in their enormous power should have the future generations of our children at the forefront of their minds in a health crisis. They should be protecting the innocent. Our children have had to continue to suffer. The government have used their powers to shut down schools and remove the right to social and academic education. The government have allowed the schools to reopen, but the restrictions are further damaging to the mental health of our children. They want part-time schooling, drastic measures with the masking of children, teachers, constant washing of hands and temperature taking, and this is absurd. They do not allow children to take exams, and they give the results based on their postcodes. The children from the poorest areas were cheated out of their hard work, and the rich kids got a free pass. The COVID-19 pandemic has presented huge problems for the UK's education system. A recent study said that education found over 25% of pupils were doing schoolwork at home, and the majority of all the school children were only doing 1 hour per day. With schools all over the UK closed during UK lockdown, we are now seeing the profound effects that had on education performance and how difficult it has been for parents to manage their children's education at home. Despite the best efforts of schools, they were ill prepared. There was a lot of pressure put on parents, some who were still working full-time either on site or at home, and they had the responsibility of managing childcare and tuition was a very challenging position to be in, especially with limited advice and guidance on how to manage the situation. Every one of our children is losing out in this generation, and so much more than others. What about the children locked away for months with abusers, with no break from their abuse and nobody to talk to and tell of their abuse? What about the mental effects on children having this fear imposed on them, not allowed to hug their friends, placed in bubbles and killing their grandmas? What caring the government would allow this to be said to our children? Young adults are now effectively being held as prisoners in their university accommodation, having left the safety of their homes to embark on what should be the greatest journey in their lives. They are expected to learn via Zoom. They cannot enjoy their newfound freedom, and they worry about their chosen pathways for their future careers are now hanging in the balance. Will there be jobs available for them? Will their chosen subjects be valid in society, with anything to do with the arts being eradicated? If you want to know the plan for the Western world tomorrow, then look at China today. We must not allow this to happen. Research, question, stand together, unite. Let's push for a better way to move forward with the virus. A way forward that is democratic, where people still have freedom of speech, freedom to choose, and the right to be educated and the right to earn a living. The right to live our lives with guidance of a fair power structure, with decent human beings to lead us, not under a dictatorship run by greedy, corrupt politicians. We don't deserve to be treated like this. A second lockdown will not work, and I doubt it's going to end at Christmas. It will probably be till April. This is not about a virus. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Singing we are the 99%. Singing we are the 90. Together we are mighty. We are the 99%. We don't be arrested in her. She is such a sinner. Be arrested in her dressing gowns. Singing we are the 90. Together we are mighty. We are the 99%. Don't you know that you can rather be a human than a slave? One more time, singing we are the 99%. You got it. Singing we are the 99%.
Surrender our freedom to the deep state, to Bill Gates, to those people who own the pharmaceutical companies. We will not let our freedom go. We will fight you all the way. Boris Johnson, Valance, Fauci, whoever you are, we will fight you, and we will never surrender to your new world order. You can stick your new world order up your arse. Right, I just want to share with you, just on a serious note, some of my experiences in the council chamber through this pandemic. So the council meetings have been taking place via Zoom. So the 5G mass in your areas and in my areas have been going up. So when I challenged the concept of a public consultation, I was told there is no public consultation. We are officially living in a dictatorship. So my message is to everyone, including myself, go back to wherever you are, to wherever you live, and challenge your councillors, challenge your politicians, and do not let them off the hook. And also, guys, just as we are looking for peace and freedom in this country, we as an internationalist country have to share our vision internationally. And the Palestinian state and the Palestinian people have been under oppression from the Israeli government for the past 70 years. Just imagine this: no electricity, no water, no jobs. There are guns wherever you go. Your children are being shot on the way to school. Can you imagine? We will fight for the Palestinian cause with our last breath of our blood. And I just want to finish off by saying we will fight for the reinstatement of Jeremy Corbyn, the younger brother of Piers Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn has stayed in the establishment his whole life, and I make a solemn promise here: I will die till my last breath in fighting for peace and freedom for all you want and for everyone. There's a quote which I want to finish off from. I'm dying in your beds many years from now. Would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they will never take our freedom? Thank you very much. Thank you.
I want to make a suggestion about distancing. Doctors make it very clear that we're social creatures. We need to interact with each other. It improves our immune systems to contact people. So, I say now, you have a hug against the COVID con. Hug your neighbour now against the COVID con. Yes, the COVID con. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes. If there's anybody monitoring our risk analysis, this, I would just advise, officer, that all these people are in the same family group. Okay, are you feeling better? Fantastic, that proves the point, doesn't it? Parliament, as we know it, is ended. It is ended. And in fact, Keir Starmer is hastening that day by smashing up the Labour Party. It is evil what he's doing, and we demand the reinstatement of my brother and united action against the new normal. But Labour MPs, you've got to wake up, wake up, wake up. There's quite a lot of Tory MPs that are actually thinking better than Labour MPs. That is a stunning thing to say, isn't it? But we don't care what political party anyone's in. The issue is accountability versus diktat. Accountability versus the New World Order. We stand for accountability and democracy. Okay, now there's a lot of stuff we're saying, which we were told a month ago it was all conspiracy theory. We said Bill Gates wants to vaccinate the world. The Daily Mail said that's conspiracy theory, Mr. Corbyn. Well, Bill Gates does want to vaccinate the world. He says so. Yesterday's conspiracy theories are today's truth. And as Orwell said, in a society based on lies, speaking the truth is a revolutionary act. And that is what we've all got to do here. So I think we should end with a few chants. So how about no lockdowns save lives? Because we know Boris Johnson's lockdowns are killing people. Killing people through not being helped through the NHS, killing people through isolation, killing people through all manner of things. So we say, no lockdowns save lives. No lockdowns save lives. No lockdowns save lives. Masks or tracks save lives. No masks or tracks save lives. Because the vaccination, we know, modern vaccinations have got poisons in them. We know that the flu vaccine makes people ill, and most people that have got so-called COVID are just people who've had the flu vaccine. So the purpose of the vaccine is not to cure you, it's to make you ill and control you. It is evil, evil, evil. No vax whatsoever save lives. No vax whatsoever save lives. No vax whatsoever save lives. We know what 5G is about. We know that 5G and 4G make you ill, actually, for prolonged exposure. And I would recommend in your home you use Ethernet, not Wi-Fi. Seriously. But 5G itself, those high frequencies will cause damage, do cause damage, and their other purpose is to spy on you by having very fast communication system, which is about control, control, control under a new technocracy. So we say, take down 5G, save lives. 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 And in the final choice between tyranny and freedom, we choose freedom!
Has pushed us too far. We want to debate and we have the freedom of speech to do that. We don't want to just listen to the media, government or the elite. We have a freedom of thought, speech and speech. Will you listen to these people without doing your own research? We are peacefully questioning the mainstream media and the narrative. We do not consent. Cancer, diabetes, suicide, Alzheimer's and dementia are the leading causes of death, with COVID-19 being number 24. They have now confirmed that the government has run. And if you die within 28 days of having coronavirus by the means of even getting hit by a bus or suicide or any other death, it will go down as a coronavirus death. Multiple lines of evidence indicate that the pandemic has profound psychological and social effects. The psychological sequel of the pandemic will probably persist for months and years to come. Studies indicate that the COVID-19 pandemic is associated with distress, anxiety, parent contagion, depression and insomnia in the general population and among healthcare professionals. Social isolation, anxiety, uncertainty, chronic stress and economic difficulties may lead to the development or exacerbation of depression, anxiety, substance use and other psychiatric disorders. Face masks do not work, as advised by the World Health Organization for the first 3 months of the restrictions. Masks are harmful when worn for hours and reused. Masks collect germs and will be repeatedly inhaled rather than expelled. Masks lower oxygen intake and cause hypercapnia, in other words, high carbon dioxide in the blood. This can lead to feeling dizzy, fainting, mental confusion and increased susceptibility to other bacterial infections. The masks are coated with PTFE that is used on Teflon pans. According to Cancer.org, it increases the risk of liver, testicle, pancreas, kidney and breast tumours. So people, listen to that. I've got loads of things to talk about. I could be here all day, but I'm going to finish off. I'm going to say Boris Johnson has made an announcement that he will override Andy Burnham as the Mayor of Manchester. We will be going into a national lockdown soon. This is the time to unite and send a clear message that the North will not be rolling over on their back, while the non-cynical totalitarian rules are purely based around profit, control and greed that is pushed onto us by the people who they are meant to serve. Instead, they are serving their corrupt farmer and big tech puppets, masters that make secret contracts between themselves. One of the names are Circle, who is owned by Winston Churchill's grandson. They have their hands in a lot of pies. You can go do your research yourself on Circle. While we suffer so they can make billions of money, date a time and location to be confirmed as soon as Boris makes his next move. Be ready to stand up, be ready to unite, and once we're all shoulder dictation, we will not conform, we will not surrender our freedoms, and we will fight to ensure that the children of the future do not grow up in a world that is deprived of their basic human rights. We are the people, we are the power, we are the 99%! Thank you guys.
Me and others started these things in Glastonbury, middle of April, where we had half a dozen people standing around underneath the Market Cross, and then we had some attempted doing things by the London Eye. About stand-up ex-people there on the 9th of May, for example, but they were very small beginnings. The things developed a bit in Hyde Park. They got arrested twice, just after speaking for about 5 or 10 minutes. But since then we just carried on, and now we've had the biggest demonstration ever in Trafalgar Square this century, which is 60,000 people. 26 officers. So, we are winning ground, but it's still a long way to go. Well, it's going to be very important because the government is going to talk about bits of lockdown, try and impose things, but it's important now that people physically resist all lockdown measures so they can find them. They're not just stay indoors, go on the street. We're told not to drink after 10 o'clock, drink after. Businesses are closed, they should stay open. They should suffer the consequences, be fine, it doesn't matter, you've got nothing to lose. If you don't defy, you'll be killed anyway.
Well, my name's Omar Ahmed from the Pendle constituency. I've come out here to support Piers Corbyn in his mission really to spread freedom and the message of the truth. I'm also here, very importantly, to support the reinstatement of Jeremy Corbyn MP, who was disgracefully thrown out of the Labour Party or suspended from the Labour Party. Yes, but I'm also here to highlight, the lockdowns on an international scale, for example, Palestine, and I'm here to highlight these issues. I've known Piers for over 4 years. I mean, he's a man of high integrity. He's given me many opportunities inequalities, and you know, he's just an honest person. He's got nothing to gain from this, and it just shows his integrity, and how genuine he actually is. I think also with Piers he's a man who speaks the truth about the climate change fraud, but the protection of our planet is the duty of every human being. To protect, to sustain, to maintain, to improve has to be the duty on an ethical and moral level of every human being. But the case of man-made climate change, I think the science is really weak behind that, and I think it needs to be thrown out there and taught to our generations. I mean, I consider myself a socialist. I consider myself working class, and I'd just like to say the person who inspired me into politics is an 18th century socialist called Tipu Sultan, and his quote was, which he lived his life by, "Sher ki ek din ki zindagi, kidhar ki 100 saal ki zindagi se behtar hai," which translates into one day's life of a tiger is better than 100 years' life of a jackal. So I've got nothing to gain. I mean, I don't want a political career. I mean, if I get into anywhere, I just want to raise the concerns and improve the lives of working class people. I want peace around the world. I want justice around the world. And I want to improve human rights around the world. And I will die until my last breath, on this mission, and I hope to succeed in this mission.
Thank you, Matt Hancock. He's seen his granddad twice. Do you know what I mean? We don't get to see our family anymore. She gets told at school, walk this way, don't face your friends, don't have your friends around, don't play with them, right? For what?